Welcome to the Big Money Stylist podcast. I am Sarah, and great day. Guess who we have here? Another Sarah. If you happen to be a Gemini, honestly, that would be the greatest day.
Aries.
Oh, well, that's okay. That's what my husband is.
Huh? It works then.
So it works. We're a perfect match for this podcast. Okay, so let's just kind of get started with just tell us about yourself, like the thing, where you live, what you do. Obviously, you do hair, but you know.
So I am from St. Louis. I own a salon. It is NBR-exclusive. So I don't know. Like 6 years ago, I came to California and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go learn an extension method. I was extremely bored in my business. I had been doing hair for, I don't know, I think it was 17 years, and I was just bored. So I actually was going to get out of doing hair. I didn't enjoy it anymore. I was done. So I came here, and I don't know what happened. I went full force into it, and it's been great ever since. So went from working like 1 million hours a week to working a lot less hours. I'm actually getting ready to go down to 3 days. So
from how many days?
In the beginning, I was doing 6 to 7. I've slowly worked my way down I started with 5, then down to 4, and now I'm down to 3.
So what had to happen for you to go from 7 days a week, basically, to 3 to 4 days a week?
A couple of things. I stopped letting my clients control my schedule. I started saying no. Well, yeah, it was really scary. I remember when I went back home the first time and Garrett was like, you're going to go back and you're going to get rid of all these clients. And I was like, what?
You're like, I'm going to pee my pants.
I was like, yes. I'm going to die. Like, I'm not going to be able to live. I'm not going to have any money. And I don't know. It just it was very interesting.
Did you do it or were you hesitant?
No, I did it. Yeah. I didn't want to. I mean, I cried a lot. A lot.
You're like, I'll do it, but it's fine.
I mean, it just, and then doing it and being so frustrated because I wasn't good at it. You know what I mean? It's like I had to learn it. So it was just a scary transition, and I had never been taught that. I mean, in 17 years, it's like work, work, work. You have to do all this, and this is the only way you're successful.
That's what they teach you in hair school. You take all the clients, you work all the days, you work all the holidays because those are the times people have off. Mm-hmm. It's ingrained into your brain to be a slave behind your own chair.
Yeah, Saturdays, getting rid of Saturdays, I was like, wait, what do you mean I don't have to work on Saturday? But when I first came here, my daughter was 5 months, and I just was like, I can't do this the rest of my life. I'm not going to do this.
Oh, especially with a new baby. You're like, new baby, and then work 24/7. You're like, I'm a ghost.
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, I fell in love with it, and here I am.
So it kind of, our stories are very similar to where it's like you kind of get to this point where you're just like, I can't do this anymore. And you get to this event with this crazy energy, these crazy people, and you're like, why am I here? You're like, why did I choose? What possessed me to spend this money and come here? And then, some crazy man is like, nope, cut all your clients out. And you're like, what on earth? And then you go home, and for some crazy reason, you do it.
Yeah, it was, I got divorced. My entire life changed.
Same.
Just from coming here. But it was I'm with, I don't know. I feel like I was listening to you talk yesterday. I'm like, oh my gosh, sounds just like me. I'm with the most amazing man now. I'm getting married again next year. And I'm just like, life is just so good. I'm like, how did this happen? But I think had I not come to that class 6 years ago, I would probably still be sitting in the same spot because
same spot.
I was like, oh, I'm just going to stay here because of my daughter. I need to stay. But I was like, this is not.
So essentially, your whole mindset around you shifted. Mm-hmm. So you actually, because correct me if I'm wrong, but for me, it's I saw myself for the first time as a human being outside of my marriage, outside of being a mom, outside of my kids, and outside of just being hair. I'm like, wait, I'm a person, and I can have thoughts, and I can have dreams, and I can have goals, and it's oh my gosh, this is fun.
Well, and I think too, like
Scary as shit, but fun.
like living a life that I was living, like I was like paycheck to paycheck, and I'm like, I don't know, whatever I was, 36 years old. I'm like, I can't live like this. Like this is awful.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, I'm gonna give my daughter a better life. So I was like, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna make it happen. However that works, I'm gonna make it happen.
Yes. That's wild. So yeah, our stories are very, very similar. So fast forward a little bit. At what point did you open your own space?
2020
So
was
COVID.
actually.
Yeah.
And I was locked out of my salon. I
Gosh.
worked at like a loft type place. So they shut all of our keys off, and I was like, well. So the last night I worked until midnight, literally until exactly when I had to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked till midnight. I packed up my entire car with all of my stuff, and I worked out of my car for 2 months because I was like, I'm
you're like, I can't quit.
Well, yeah,
I have to pay my bills.
I was like, well, nobody else is going to pay my bills. And half of my clients didn't want to not get their hair done.
Right.
So I was like, so as soon as we were allowed to go back to work, I had been looking for a space for a while, but it was almost like I drove past and there was a for rent sign, and I was like, I'm going to go look at that place. And here we are. So we opened in August of 2020. So it's actually exactly 3 years right now.
That's insane. So is it a suite? Do you have chairs?
It's just me and my sister. So, and then I have a lash girl, but it's essentially just me and my sister. My sister also does NBR, so
okay,
it's kind of nice.
That is fun.
I built it out for her. We're like 20 years apart, so like
yeah,
I wanted her to have something.
When she was yeah.
Right now, it's just she's just young, so I'm like, but I wanted her to have something for later. So
well, also it's nice as like I don't have sisters, but I'm assuming as an older sister where you're like, do not waste 20 years of your life doing all of these things. Like, start doing this now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I love that.
She graduated school, and she actually came here like 2 months. As soon as she got her license, we scheduled her to come out here.
You're like, and you're going straight to the Kool-Aid. Straight to the fridge for the Kool-Aid.
But that's why she wanted to do hair.
Yeah.
Is because of the extensions. She didn't want to do anything else. Yeah. She loved the extensions, and she was like, I think I want to do that. I'm like, well, let's do it.
Did she do it because you were doing it?
Uh-huh. Oh, well, I practiced on her.
Yeah.
It's not good, but.
You're like, thank you for all of those stressful times.
I practiced on her a lot. But, yeah.
So you kind of got to a point where you're just like, you know what? I'm doing this. Did you ever want to own your own salon? Like, had that thought ever occurred to you?
Did.
Okay.
I just thought I wouldn't be able to.
Like, I'll never make it that far.
You always hear bad stories. Like, people are like, oh, my God, owning a salon is so horrible. And I'm like, well, I mean, I guess it can be. It just depends
on I feel like anything can be horrible.
But really, being in a loft, I own my own salon. So I'm like, it's nicer to be able to have, like, the freedom, you know? And I'm like, if they ever do that again, I don't have to close now.
Right.
Because nobody can tell me to close.
Well, and you have so much freedom in, like, your life. Like, you are able to just come out and travel. You can open your own space. You can have your sister there with you.
Yeah.
Like, your daughter's life is probably significantly different than it was before.
Yeah.
And you met somebody. But, like, I mean, same. I experienced very, very similar things where it's like, the person that I am married to now, I probably never would have, like, mentally had the capacity to, like, I mean, as sad as it is, allow someone to, like, be nice to me. Because it's like, oh, no, like, I deserve better. I deserve this. Like, I want to go do this. And you actually have preferences because you have, like, freedom and the capacity to handle that instead of, like, drama and survival mode.
Yeah. That's pretty much what it was.
Yeah.
All the time. So it's nice. I still struggle sometimes because I'm like, you know, every once in a while, like, my head will go back and I'm like, okay, stop doing that. Don't think that way. It's not like that anymore. So
I actually saw this quote on Instagram literally last night, and it said, even the most positive people have negative thoughts. It's just that they don't entertain them. And I found that to be so true because every time I, like, start to, you know, spiral, because you do, you're just like, what is wrong with me? Why can I just, like, not have these thoughts? And then I read that yesterday, and I was like, oh, turns out, like, everybody has these thoughts. It's just whether you entertain them and spiral or whether you're just like, no, I'm not going to go there. Yeah. So, okay, so when did you graduate? Because you're graduated,
From
like the academy.
like when was I licensed or when
Yeah,
did I
yeah,
go?
yeah.
Oh, actually, just this past year. I think it was April, maybe.
So right before convention.
Yeah, I kind of stepped away for a while. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
step away. I just everything like it was just there was just a lot of change, and
Yeah.
I was just like I don't know what to do. So
You're like, what do I have to
so
juggle
in
here?
April of this year, I finally decided like okay, I'm gonna start focusing on it again because I felt like I wasn't really like focused on it as much, and I
Yeah.
was like I'm not like I didn't have like the excitement anymore. So I was like okay, I need to do something. And when I came back in it, everything just was it just seemed more like back
Flowy.
together, and I was like, okay, I can do this. So I had already finished some of my stuff, so I just finished everything up and got licensed in April.
Woo!
But I was like, well, graduated. I'm like, I mean, I mean, because I joined the academy
Yeah.
BMS Con 1, so I was like, I don't know, I graduated at some point.
You're like, it's
I don't
just
know.
an ongoing process.
But yeah.
So kind of talk to me about like your mindset because I know a lot of people, even for like Brett, for example, and even Amanda that was just in here, she was saying like, people say like, why are you going back to class? You've already graduated.
That's actually a good question because
Did people ask you that?
I got a lot of that. They were like, "So are you learning something new?" And I'm like, "No." Well, what are you doing? Why do you need to go back? And I was like, "Well, I mean, things change, and it's not. I guess it's hard to explain to people because I'm like, the method doesn't change, but
Right.
like the way that you do things changes. So like I've already learned so much just and I haven't been here in almost 2 years. It's been about a year and a half, almost 2 years, and I'm like." It's just you learn different stuff. Like you learn how to, I don't know, like my beads. I learned something about my beads yesterday. I was like, I had no idea that that was the issue. So
Yeah.
it's just like, I guess the way I explained it to him was like, I'm just enhancing my skills so that I give you a better, service, obviously. So
One, it's just like you're continuing to learn.
Yeah.
You're not just like, oh, I learned it, I'm good.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I think happens a lot of times.
I will say the biggest like thing for me as far as like education and learning goes, and I will say like you were in class yesterday, like I come and I teach, and it's like every single time I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. So it's like your capacity for information changes. And so you could be hearing it, the method doesn't change, but you could be hearing the same thing every class, but your capacity changes so you hear it differently.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh. Whereas, like, rewind however many years ago, you're like, this is how I tie a knot. Cool, got it. And now you're like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, it was, no, it was not good in the beginning. It was not good. No.
So, essentially, like, are you glad that you continue to come and you came to class?
Yeah. Yes, very much so. I think I went through a period where I was like, I need to go learn something else. I need to do something else. And it was like every time I did it, I always came back. I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, you know what I mean? But it was like, it was the curiosity like killed the cat. Like I had to like see. And I was like,
to know that you liked something better.
I don't like this. I don't
like that.
So I don't know if it's because like I'm semi a creature of habit, but like I was like, why do you keep trying to find things to replace what you're good at?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was like, it just, I don't know, I'm sure you know, like it just blew up over like the last 5 years. And I was like, well, maybe I need to do this. Maybe I need to learn this one. I was like, what do I do?
Yeah.
So I just finally was like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm done trying to like, I'm done trying to figure out what I need to do. I'm like, I just need to do this, and it's hard because you get people that call you and they're like, will you do tape-ins? Will you do this? And I'm like, unfortunately, no. Like that was hard at first because I would take anybody. I'd be like, okay, well, I'll go ahead and do your tape-ins. And I'm like, no.
As you're doing the tape, you're like, stupid tape, get out of the stupid way.
So it's a lot easier to say no. It's also a lot easier to say no to people that don't fit me, like that I can tell. So that was really hard in the beginning. I took everybody, and I've slowly phased some of them out because it's just like, I don't want to be stressed out at work.
Yeah.
It's not worth it to me. So. it's gotten a lot easier to say no to a lot of things.
So if you were to give somebody advice that was like just starting, because I mean, I'm sure you know, like right now saying no to certain things is super easy for you. 10 years ago, would you have done that? You would have probably thrown up.
Oh yeah, no.
Like there are some times where I have to tell people no, and I'm just like, I start to get sweaty and I'm like, I hate this. But at the end of the day, like you're right, I do not want to be miserable at work. Yeah. I do not want to be miserable in my own space for hours at a time. And so I'm just like, it's easier to say no now than to deal with all the drama that comes from it, from saying yes because you were too scared to say no.
Well, I mean, even like raising prices, it's like I still get sick to my stomach. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. Like, it's just, and I think it's partially because you care. You know what I mean? It's not like you're not trying to like, well, I mean, you are trying to get rid of some people, but you know what I mean?
But
like, you're not trying to
rip
like
people off.
No. Yeah. So it's just like, it's hard. But I guess, I don't know, I guess I would tell somebody like, don't give up because it's, you know, it's not easy. Like, I feel like this is probably the hardest thing I've ever learned in my life. Like, you know what I mean? How to do, like, it's not easy. And like, I wanted to give up so many times in the beginning. I was like, I'm not doing this. This is stupid. I can't do this.
This is stupid.
This doesn't work. I'm like, it looks like a mullet. Well, it wasn't because of the method. It was because of me. I'm like, this is a me
like,
problem,
I'm sorry I gave you
not
a
a
mullet.
you problem. This is my problem. So I'm like, it just, I mean, just like, don't give up. You know, it's like it will work if you put the time and effort into it. Like, you know, it's like, I look back to 6 years ago and I'm like, I never thought I would be here. You know, like it was so hard. And I'm like, now I'm like, I don't even think about it anymore. Except for I do feel like coming back this time is a lot better because I feel like I said, I was just getting into a rut. Like I was I was going through the motions. I wasn't really paying attention on what I was doing. Like, and I hate to admit that, but like I knew that. So I was like, I have to go. Yeah. You know, like I have to like get out of this rut. So, but yeah, no, I mean, I would tell anybody to do it. I tell everybody when they ask, they're like, what method should I do? I'm like, you're asking me, really?
You're like,
I'm going to tell you where to go. Yes. Like, I'm going to tell you to go to California. Like, I just, you know, it's worked for me very well. So, but you do have to put the time and the effort into it. Like, it doesn't just happen because you do the method.
And I feel like that is a huge thing inside of like your mindset, because I feel like human beings in general are very much so like instant gratification. If they're not seeing results, if it's not working right away, they're like, I don't want anything to do with it. And something that you had said a second ago, it's like those decisions were really hard and scary for you. But like fast forward 6 years, you're at a point where you're just like, yeah, it's scary, but you don't think twice about it because look how far you've come. And another thing to think about is when 6 years ago, like you had goals, I'm sure, because you came to class, you did the like, why are you here? All of those things, and you made goals. Is it crazy to look back? Because it sure is for me, because my goals were like a mile ahead, and where I've come is like 5 miles past that. And I look back and I'm like, oh, I went further than I thought I could go. I'm like, oh, look at me. Wow.
Yeah, I do feel that way. I also feel like I'm ready to like go a little bit further. Like, I feel like I'm just like, I just kind of felt like, okay, I'm here, but now like I'm where I wanted to be, but now I want to go. I want more, you know, like I want to work less. So it's like now I'm seeing it and I'm like, oh, I can do all these things. Like I can work less. I can do all these, just all the things that everybody's always like, you can't do that. You can't do that.
You're like, well, bitch, watch me.
I've done it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, and I also think like coming back to is there's so many, you just see so many like different things, and it's like it's hard to see because like I feel like a lot of people have a really bad like aura around extensions because they had one bad experience. Yep. And now they're like, oh no, that looks terrible. That's not gonna I can't do that. And I'm like,
it's almost like they don't even want to give it a chance because they've had a bad experience.
So it's like, so for me it's more like I don't want my clients to ever feel that way, especially if it's their first time, which a lot of times they come from other places. It just depends. They want to try something new. But yeah, it's crazy. It's like, I don't know. I want everybody to have good hair. I'm like, your hair shouldn't look like that. It should look amazing. It shouldn't be like me.
You're like, no, you should, that's not how it should be. Yes.
Just not 6 years ago.
No, just let's erase 6 years.
You didn't want to see that hair 6 years ago.
But the truth is that, like, the 6 years ago version of you, like, today wouldn't be possible if you didn't have to experience that.
That is true. That is true.
So I've been, like, coming to terms with that in my life a little bit lately because I like, people look back and they're like, oh, if I could have done this differently, I would, or if I regret this or I regret that. And I've finally come to terms with the fact that it's like, I don't know that I regret anything or would do anything differently because if I did, I wouldn't be where I was.
Yeah, that is true.
So in some weird sense of the way, it's like, did going through certain things like crush me? Absolutely. But at the same time, I kind of look at it like I needed that to be where I am today to make the moves that I want to be in tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's kind of hard for people, I feel like, to think that way though. Because they don't see the bigger picture. They're like, oh, no, that's too scary. I don't want to do it. Yeah. It'll cost too much or it's too hard.
It's kind of a comedy relief now.
Yes.
It's like, oh, my God, look how far, like it's just, I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy to like think like how much better you get at things just from.
Just being consistent?
Yeah.
Imagine.
I mean, like I remember like, I don't know. I was listening to one of the calls the other day from just the weekly live from. Not the mastermind, but the
academy one?
The academy one. And it was just like listening to some of the girls and, they were like, well, like I only did like, 1,500 this week or whatever. And I remember being there and it was like, you just want to say to them, like, just keep going. Like, it'll get better. Yeah. Because it does. And like, and then I think back and I'm like, how did I live?
Yes.
Like, how did I live on what I made? Like, how did I even...
And at the time, you're like, I'm killing it. That's the sad thing.
I was killing it. I was killing myself.
Like,
so I'm like, yeah, I wasn't just killing it. I was killing myself. I was like, oh, my God, I'm just like...
Slow death.
Yeah, so it is very interesting. But I always like hearing that just because I'm like, just keep going. It'll get better.
Yes.
It does work, but you do definitely have to do the work. It doesn't just happen.
And, be consistent. Honestly, even just like a morning routine for me. If I skip like one day, I'm like, ooh, that was rough. 2 days, I'm screwed. And like by the third day, I'm just like clawing my way back to my routine. Like, so it's funny when you said like I used to be, like, or not used to be, but you're a creature of habit. I think most humans are creatures of habit, but they try not to be.
Yeah.
And I think that when they try not to be, it's like, no, you're just doing the wrong thing. Yeah. It's like, find a consistent routine because I will say like maybe like 5-10 years ago, I was just like, oh my gosh, I feel like my life is a broken record. Can I please just get something new? And now I crave that routine. And if I don't have it, I'm like a raging bitch. I'm like, ugh. Like I didn't do my, like you saw me this morning. I was like brain dead. Forgot my morning routine and now I'm brain dead. Okay, so what do you plan on doing like future-wise? Like, do you have any? Obviously, you're getting married, so that's fun. Do you know where?
Yes, it's called Old Stone Chapel. It's in
cute.
It's in Missouri where we live. It's in St. Charles County where we live. I just got my dress last week, so that's exciting.
Oh, that's a huge one because really, you're just like, if I don't have a dress, I'm not getting married.
I went way over my budget, but it's okay. It's
that
beautiful.
Happens. I also
like, it's so beautiful.
I was gonna rent a dress because I was like, I don't really like care a whole lot. I just want to get married. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about invites. I'm like, don't care. And then I found the dress, and I was like, don't care, I'm buying it. Yep. And then I was like, whoopsie.
I was looking at dresses, like, in the sale room, because I was like,
you're like, I don't really care that much.
I don't really, I've been married before. Like, I don't need, like, this dress. And then I was like, oh, my God, I need this dress.
You're like, no, but this one I need.
I'm like, oh, I need it. What else? I'm trying to think. As far as, like, I actually have a lot of other things that I want to do. I am hopefully...
We're going to have to put it out there because you said it. Now you have to do it. Let's hear it.
Well, I am doing it. I'm working on it. I'm going to do I'm actually going to make some educational videos. I used to educate years ago for Paul Mitchell, actually, and fun. I loved it. Yeah. But honestly, it was so much work for so little pay. And I was just like, that was another thing. I was like, I love educating, but like, it just was so blah. Yeah. So anyhow, I've run into a lot. In St. Louis, the extension market is extremely saturated. And there's 3 of us here from there right now. Yeah. And one of my best friends, she's from there too. So like there's 5 of us for sure.
And your sister. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's more of us. So I'm like, you see so many things that just upset me. It's not about the method. Like they don't color the hair. They don't know how to cut it. They don't cut it. So
you're upset is because clients are getting a bad experience. Mm-hmm. That is what irritates me is I'm like, clients don't know what they don't know, and there's stylists out there that don't care. And you're just like, no, I care.
Well, and I think, though, they don't care because they go to a 4-hour class and they get certified, and then they're like, oh, you can do extensions now. And I'm like, no, you can't.
You're like
you
no,
need
there's
to practice.
More to it. Yeah.
You know, model calls, like, they just start taking clients. So I'm going to do like a kind of like an online where I sell it. It bothers me. Like, it bothers me that much. I mean, obviously.
I hear you.
It's like, you know, passive income too. It's like I'm looking towards the future because I obviously don't want to be behind the chair forever. So, and I'm getting older. I don't like to admit that either. I'm like, oh my God.
You're like,
I mean, you know, you get into like your 40s and you're like, I need to do something. You know,
you're like, oh my gosh, I need to make some changes. It's like when people talk about midlife crisis, I feel like I have one of those every couple years. I'm like, no, I'm having a midlife crisis.
Yeah, so I think it's just, I'm excited about that because it's something that I'm passionate about. Like I don't want people coming in, whether it's a method that I use or a different method, like it doesn't matter. Like I'm always like, I don't care what method you have. Like your hair shouldn't look like that. Yes, exactly. So it's more that type of thing because, you know, people are like, oh, you know, what is that going to do? And I'm like, you have no idea. There's so many more details that go into it than the method. I'm like, the method is, I can take that off the table.
You're like, I don't know that method. You do the method, but you're like, take a little pride in the work that you're doing. Yeah. Like what rubs me the wrong way is when people are just like, just in it for the paycheck. And you're like, for me, like I was saying in class yesterday, like, doing extensions is not about giving people pretty hair. I feel like so many people, it doesn't matter what method you are, it doesn't matter if you even do a method, like so many people are so talented and good at hair, but it's just like, for me, it's like changing someone's entire life to where they feel beautiful and empowered to like change their life. And they're not going to do that if they have a shitty experience.
Yeah, it was actually, that's funny you say that because last night I never watch TV. Like, I just don't watch TV.
Yeah.
Like, my fiance will put, like, Everybody Loves Raymond on, like, literally, like, on the, just to be
in the background.
Just to, like, sit there, and we might watch it a little bit. But, like, I don't watch shows. People are like, did you watch Yellowstone? I'm like, I don't watch TV. I don't
either.
I don't watch reality shows. Yeah. Like, I just don't. Anyhow, I was watching Botched last night because I'm very interested in that show. I do love that show. Like, if it's on.
Is that's
the Dr. Dubrow and Nassif. Yeah, like the two guys they're like the two, like the top guys that people go to. Anyhow, it was interesting to me because the woman she had a really bad issue with her stomach. Yeah. That's besides the point. They fixed it. So before, she just looked, you know, I call it frumpy dump. Just like frumpy dump. Like her hair was just.
She didn't care.
Yeah, she didn't care. And then so she gets her stomach fixed. And what I found very interesting was she had hair extensions in the after, and I was like, holy shit. I was like, because it's true. Like, I tell people that. I'm like, you think, so it's not just about, like you just said, it's not about the hair, but like, she got her stomach fixed. She felt better about herself. She went and got her some hair extensions. I was like, damn, girl.
She was probably feeling great.
I mean, they didn't look the greatest, but she had hair extensions, and I was like, I noticed that about it. Like, you know, I was like, oh my God. I'm like, that's so interesting to me because it happens all the time. Yeah. Like even my fiance's niece, like she's the most simple, you know, like money saving. She's really good with money. She's not me. You know, she goes into a Gucci store. She's fine. I go into one. I'm like, oh, I want that.
You're like, oh, but can I get both of those?
Yeah. So, but it's funny because like she was like, I think I want extensions. I'm like, okay. So she came in and we did the appointment and she goes home. And literally like 2 days later, her husband's like, what did you do with my wife? Yeah. Where did she go and what did you do with her? And I'm like, I didn't do anything.
You're like,
I gave her hair extensions.
I gave her confidence.
But like it truly, I think that's the experience that makes me love it so much. Like it's not really the hair. It's not
the transformation of their soul. Like you're just like, there you are. Yeah.
So it was pretty interesting. Like, and I get that a lot. Like, what did you do to her? I'm like, I didn't do anything to her. I just put hair in her head. Like, but it's not just hair. It's like, it's the whole, it's like just making you feel better. Like, I know how I feel when I take my hair out. I'm like, oh my God.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, don't look at me. Sometimes I'll take it out the night before and I'm like, okay, is anybody going to see me on my way?
Like, okay, where am I going to go? Who am I going to avoid?
I mean, my ponytail's like this big. I'm like, don't look at me.
Yeah.
It's like, wear a hat, don't look at me. It's really bad. But yeah, so that's like, I think that's like my favorite part about it is the confidence that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I have to agree. Well, I think, honestly, I don't even think that our conversation could get any better than that. So we're just going to leave it at that. If you have any, like, last parting words for anyone.
No.
Not really. She's lying. Her last parting words are what she said earlier, and she did say it a few times, like, put in the work, commit to, like, doing things, and, like, just commit to being good at what you're doing. Yeah. Don't try to do 800,000 things. Like, just find something you love and commit to it and do a good job at it.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree with that.
Get your passion in there.
Yeah. So, just don't give up. Like, I really wanted to give up in the beginning. Like, really, really wanted to give up. I was like, I can't do this. This is so stupid.
It's too hard.
And now it's like, so.
Yeah.
That would be it.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for chatting with me and just being so fun. Now we're going to be the Sarah best friends, obviously. It's great. So that's a wrap for today. Yep, done.